The last left behind, the alien slave market was always crowded. Under a burning red sky, traders shouted, buyers argued, and sad-eyed slaves waited inside iron cages. Every week, new faces arrived, and every week, most were sold. But this week was different. A small alien girl, maybe 12 years old, sat alone in the last cage. Her skin was a soft blue, her hair tangled and dirty. Her big violet eyes showed fear, and her thin hands hugged her knees. Other slaves had been taken one by cruel buyers who never looked at her twice. The traders called her worthless. They joked about her quietness and weak body. Who wants a slave who can barely stand? One fat merchant laughed. She won't survive a week. The crowd agreed, ignoring her as if she was invisible. Day turned to evening. The market began to close. Traders counted coins, loaded wagons, and prepared to leave. Only the small girl remained, sitting in her dark corner, silent and shaking. Suddenly, a new figure entered the empty market. He was a human, tall, with rough clothes and kind, tired eyes. His name was Jack, but no one there knew it. The traders had seen humans before, but this one was different. He walked quietly, his boots making little sound on the dusty ground. Jack looked at each empty cage, then stopped in front of the last one. The girl lifted her head, meeting his gaze. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Jack saw her fear, her sadness, and something else, hope, buried deep inside. The trader stepped forward. "You want her?" he asked, laughing. "She's useless. Worth less than a meal. I'll give her for a single coin, just to be rid of her." Jack did not laugh. He looked the trader in the eye and said, "I'll pay you 10 coins. The trader's mouth fell open. 10? Are you mad? The other traders turned to watch, curious now. No one had ever paid so much for the little alien girl, but Jack simply placed the coins on the table. "Open the cage," he said, his voice calm and steady. The trader shrugged, happy to take the money. He fumbled with his keys, unlocked the cage, and pulled the girl out roughly. Jack stepped forward quickly, putting himself between the trader and the girl. "Easy," he said, his tone firm. The girl stared at Jack, confused and scared. Why? Was a human buying her? Why did he pay more than anyone else? She flinched when he reached out, expecting pain. But Jack just took off his jacket and gently put it over her shoulders. The crowd stared in silence as Jack led her away from the cage. "What's your name?" Jack asked quietly. The girl did not answer. She only looked down, her hands clutching the jacket tightly. They walked through the empty market, past traders who shook their heads or whispered behind their hands. Some thought Jack was a fool. Others wondered if he had seen something they had not. When they reached the edge of the market, Jack knelt down so his face was level with hers. "You're safe now," he said softly. "No one will hurt you." The girl did not speak, but tears ran down her blue cheeks. Jack offered her a bottle of water. She took it with shaking hands, drinking slowly, as if she was afraid it would be taken away. Jack led her to a small inn on the edge of the city. The innkeeper looked surprised to see a human with an alien child, but Jack paid for a private room and extra food. In the room, Jack gave her a clean blanket, bread, and fruit. He did not ask her to work, did not give her orders, did not raise his voice. Instead, he sat nearby, reading a book while she ate. That night, the girl could not sleep. She sat in the corner, wrapped in the blanket, watching Jack with wide eyes. She had been sold and traded before. She knew pain, hunger, and fear, but this was new. This human was different. As Jack drifted to sleep, he said one last thing. "Tomorrow will be better, I promise." The girl listened, heart pounding. For the first time, she wondered if she might really be safe. For the first time, she let herself hope. Outside, the city was quiet. But word of the strange human who paid a fortune for a worthless slave was already spreading. Some laughed. Some felt sorry. But others dangerous men began to wonder. Why? What did Jack see in the girl that no one else did? And would he regret his choice? Inside the small room, the alien girl closed her eyes and whispered her name so softly, even she barely heard it. Rinya. Tomorrow, everything would change. The human's strange kinness. Rinya woke before sunrise, the sky outside their small window still dark and cold. She stayed very still under the blanket, not sure if this room was truly safe or just another temporary hiding place. In her past, every new owner was a new kind of fear. Today felt different, but she did not know why. Jack, the human, was already awake. He sat at a small table, carefully fixing a torn sleeve on his shirt. He noticed Rinya watching him, and he smiled, a gentle, patient smile she had never seen from anyone before. "Morning," Jack said quietly. "You must be hungry." Rinya nodded, uncertain, expecting to be ordered to work for her food. But instead, Jack pushed a plate of bread and fruit across the table. "Eat as much as you like," he said. "You need your strength." Rinya reached for the bread, her hands shaking, eyes on Jack as if waiting for a trap. When she bit into the soft, warm food, she almost cried. It had been a long time since anyone had given her fresh food without asking for something in return. After breakfast, Jack cleaned the small wound on Rinya's arm and wrapped it with a soft cloth. He spoke softly, telling her she was safe now. "No one will hurt you here," he promised. Rinya looked away, afraid to believe him. She had heard similar promises before, and they always turned into nightmares. Jack left her alone to wash in the tiny bathroom. Rinya stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror. Dirt covered her face, and her hair was wild and knotted. She did not recognize herself. She wondered, for a moment, if this was just another dream. Later, they stepped outside into the city. Jack took Rinya to the clothing stalls, surprising everyone there. "She needs proper clothes," Jack said. The merchant, seeing a human with a slave, smirked. "She won't last long enough to wear them out," he joked. Jack ignored him. He picked out a soft blue cloak and a pair of sturdy shoes. Rinya could barely believe it as Jack helped her put them on. She was used to rags, not soft fabric. She looked at Jack, searching his face for cruelty, but found only kindness. As they walked through the busy streets, people whispered. Some pointed at Rinya's new clothes. Others mocked Jack. "Wasting good money on a broken thing," one merchant muttered. But Jack just walked on, his hand resting protectively on Rinya's shoulder. He stopped by a food stall and bought 2 hot buns, giving one to Rinya. "You don't have to hide anymore," he said. "You are not property." Rinya followed him quietly. Her new shoes felt strange but wonderful. She watched Jack greet a small group of street children and share his food with them. The children stared at Rinya with wide eyes, and one even smiled at her. She flinched, unsure how to respond. Jack led her to the river outside the city walls. The water was clear, and the air smelled fresh. He sat on a rock and pulled out a small book, drawing in it with a worn pencil. Rinya crept closer. Curious. Jack showed her the pages, simple pictures of birds, trees, and strange animals. He began teaching her the words for each one, slowly, repeating them until she nodded. "This is a sparrow," he said. "This is a willow tree." Rinya repeated the words softly, her voice growing a little stronger each time. For a moment, Rinya felt almost normal, almost happy, but danger was never far. As the sun climbed higher, a group of rough-looking men appeared on the road behind them. They were slavers, angry that Jack had paid so much for Rinya, angry that he treated her like a person. One man shouted, "Give her back. You overpaid for damaged goods. She belongs to us." Jack stood up calmly. "She is free now. Leave us alone." The men laughed, but something in Jack's eyes made them pause. Rinya felt fear rise inside her, but she stepped behind Jack, holding onto his sleeve. Jack did not back down. The men cursed and spat, but finally walked away, grumbling threats. Rinya was shaken. Jack knelt beside her, speaking softly. I will protect you. You're not alone anymore. For the first time, Rinya believed him, just a little. As they walked back to the inn, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, her life was finally changing. That night, Jack asked her name again. This time, in a trembling whisper, she answered, Rinya. Jack smiled, gentle and proud. It's a beautiful name. Outside, the city's shadows grew longer, and trouble watched them from afar. But inside that small inn room, Rinya began to feel a spark of hope. And for the first time, she dreamed of something other than escape. The secret of the worthless slave. Early the next morning, the city's air was cold and full of fog. Rinya woke to the smell of warm bread and something sweet. She opened her eyes and saw Jack sitting near the window, quietly making tea. For the first time, she felt a tiny bit safe. Jack handed her a cup. Drink, it will warm you up. Rinya sipped slowly, surprised by the gentle taste. No one had ever shared a morning like this with her before. She felt shy, but curious. Jack showed her a small map. We have to leave the city, he whispered. It's not safe here. Rinya's heart raced. The fear of being hunted never left her. But Jack's calm voice gave her courage. He gave her a simple bag with some bread, a warm scarf, and the drawing book he used yesterday. If we get separated, follow the river east, he instructed Dot as they stepped into the streets. Rinya noticed the looks people gave them, some curious, some angry. She heard whispers. That's the human who bought the broken slave. What's he hiding? But Jack paid them no mind, always keeping Rinya close. Dotted a busy corner. Jack bought some supplies from an old alien woman. The woman looked into Rinya's eyes, then gently pressed a candy into her palm. Stay close to him, child, she said quietly, and smiled. Suddenly, two men appeared in their path. They wore dark cloaks and mean expressions, slavers from yesterday. Going somewhere, one sneered. Jack stood tall, his voice steady. We're leaving, she's not your business. The slavers blocked their way. You don't know what you're carrying, human. That little wretch cost us a fortune. Jack didn't move. Go away, he said coldly. The slavers looked at Rinya, and for a second, their eyes glowed with fear and anger. She's not what she seems. She's dangerous. Give her to us, or Jack's eyes narrowed. Or what? The men hesitated, noticing the people watching. They spat on the ground and slunk away, but their threat hung in the air. Jack took Rinya's hand. Don't listen to them, he said gently. You're safe with me. They left the city gates just as the sun was rising, painting the sky orange and pink. Jack led Rinya along a quiet path by the river. Birds sang, and the water sparkled. For a while, Rinya forgot about being hunted. As they walked, Jack started teaching her human words and numbers, drawing in the sand by the riverbank. Rinya learned quickly. She could count to 10 and even write her own name. Jack clapped for her, and she smiled a real, shy smile. But as the day grew warmer, Jack noticed Rinya glancing over her shoulder, tense and quiet. He sat beside her on a log and asked, Rinya, why are those men so afraid of you? Rinya hugged her knees. She stared at the river, not sure if she could trust him with her truth. Then she whispered, I was different as a child. Sometimes things moved when I was sad or angry. Jack listened, his eyes kind. My old masters, they saw it once. They said I was cursed. After that, I was sold again and again. No one wanted me. They thought I would bring bad luck. Rinya's voice shook. I never meant to hurt anyone. But sometimes when I dream, things break. Jack was silent for a moment, letting her words sink in. Then he said, Rinya, what happened to you was not your fault. Having something special inside you doesn't make you bad. Rinya blinked back tears. She wasn't sure she believed him, but the way he spoke made her hope. Jack gently held her hand. "You don't have to hide who you are, not from me." Suddenly, the bushes across the river shook. Rinya jumped, heart pounding. Jack stood quickly, pulling her behind him. Out of the bushes came a small, hungry animal. Jack laughed and tossed it a piece of bread. The animal snatched it and ran. Rinya relaxed, but her fear returned. What if I lose control again? Jack shook his head. Then we'll deal with it together. As the sun set, Jack made a small fire. He cooked a simple meal for them. Before sleeping, he gave Rinya the drawing book. "Draw anything you want," he said. Rinya hesitated, then drew a picture of the river, the sun, and a small, smiling figure holding hands with a tall one. Jack looked at the drawing, then at her. "That's us?" Rinya nodded. Jack smiled. And for the first time, Rinya felt a sense of belonging. But far away, in the darkness, the slavers watched. "The human knows her secret," one whispered. "We must get her back before anyone else learns what she really is." The secret of the worthless slave was out. And now, everything was about to change. Hunted for kindness, the world beyond. The city was bigger and wilder than Rinya had ever known. Forests with silver leaves stretched for miles, rivers ran fast and cold, and the wind carried strange songs through the tall alien grass. Jack and Rinya followed small animal paths by day and slept under the stars at night. It was peaceful, but Rinya's mind could not rest. Jack was careful, always watching the trail behind them. He set clever traps and hid their camp with fallen branches, but Rinya sensed his worry. She remembered the slavers' angry eyes, their threats. She was sure they would not give up easily. One afternoon, as they climbed a rocky hill, Rinya paused to catch her breath. Jack handed her water, and they sat together in the shade. "You're strong," Jack told her, smiling. "Not many could keep walking like this." Rinya shook her head. "You saved me. I just follow." Jack looked at her with gentle eyes. "No, Rinya. You're saving yourself." Suddenly, from high above, a distant whistle echoed. Jack's eyes sharpened. He crouched, listening. Rinya gripped his arm. "Is it them?" Jack nodded. "Hunters use signals like that. We have to move." They hurried downhill, leaving the path and heading into the thickest forest. Branches scratched Rinya's arms. She stumbled, but Jack was always there to steady her. They heard the whistle again, closer now. Rinya's heart pounded. She remembered being chased before by men who wanted to hurt her, by masters who only saw her as trouble. This time, something inside her refused to freeze. They reached a narrow creek. Jack leaped across and pulled Rinya after him. Her foot slipped, and for a moment, she panicked. Then suddenly, the water shifted as if an invisible hand pushed her up. She landed safely on the other side, breathless. Jack looked at her with wide eyes. "You did that?" Rinya nodded, scared and amazed at herself. Jack grinned. "Don't hide it. That's your strength." Behind them, heavy footsteps crashed through the trees. Jack grabbed Rinya's hand and pulled her deeper into the shadows. They moved in silence, listening to the angry shouts and snapping branches. Rinya's pulse hammered in her ears. Finally, they reached a small cave hidden by roots and stones. Jack checked to make sure it was empty, then led Rinya inside. It was cold and dark, but safe for now. As dusk fell, Rinya curled up near Jack, shivering from fear and exhaustion. Jack wrapped his coat around her shoulders. "Why do they chase?" "US?" she whispered. Jack spoke softly. "Some people hate what they don't understand. You're different, and that scares them. But being different is not wrong." Rinya looked into his eyes, searching for doubt. She found only kindness. That night, Jack stayed awake, keeping watch at the cave entrance. Rinya slept lightly, dreaming of running, sometimes chased, sometimes running free. In her dream, she heard Jack's voice, telling her she could choose her own path. Before dawn, a sound woke Jack. He listened, footsteps outside, voices whispering. He shook Rinya awake, put a finger to his lips, and pointed to the back of the cave, where a narrow crack led to the open woods. Quiet as shadows, they squeezed through the crack and crept into the cool, misty forest. Behind them, the slavers burst into the cave too late. Jack and Rinya hurried away, sticking to the thickest brush. For hours they walked in silence, listening for every noise. At midday, they stopped by a fallen tree. Rinya's stomach growled. Jack handed her bread, but she pushed it away. "Why do you help me?" she asked suddenly. Jack thought for a long moment. "Because I've been alone before. Because someone once helped me when I needed it most. And because I see more in you than fear. I see hope." Rinya looked down, her hands twisting in her lap. No one had ever said such words to her. For the first time, she wanted to believe them. Suddenly, they heard a crash in the distance. The slavers, frustrated, had set the forest on fire to flush them out. Smoke drifted between the trees. "We have to go," Jack said, urgency in his voice. Rinya nodded, but this time, she did not just follow. She grabbed Jack's hand and pulled him with her, choosing her own way through the maze of trees. As they ran, Rinya felt a strange strength inside her, a will to survive, not just hide. The fear was still there, but so was something new, courage. Together, they disappeared into the wild, chased by enemies, but moving toward a future that was finally their own. As night fell and the fire burned far behind them, Jack looked at Rinya with pride. "You're not the same girl from the cage," he said. Rinya managed a small, tired smile. For the first time, she believed him. The hidden power within. For days, Jack and Rinya traveled deeper into wild lands where few dared to go. The ground grew rocky, and strange purple plants curled around their boots. They had little food left, and every shadow looked like danger. But something inside Rinya was changing. Each night, she dreamed of bright light, strange voices, and a gentle hand, her mother's hand, telling her to be brave. One afternoon, they reached an old stone bridge over a rushing river. The sun was fading, and the air turned cold. Jack's limp had grown worse since their escape from the burning forest. Every step looked painful. Rinya worried, but Jack never complained. "We'll rest here tonight," Jack said, forcing a smile. He tried to build a fire, but his hands were shaking. Rinya watched him, remembering how he had protected her so many times. Now, for the first time, she wanted to protect him. As night fell, Jack's fever got worse. He lay on the cold ground, shivering, barely awake. Rinya pressed a wet cloth to his forehead, just as Jack had done for her before. She searched her memory for every small kindness he'd ever shown her, how he had given her food, taught her words, believed in her when no one else had. Outside, she heard soft footsteps in the dark. Rinya's heart pounded. Someone was coming. She peered through the shadows and saw two hunters with sharp weapons, moving quietly toward their camp. Rinya wanted to run, but Jack could not move. She remembered Jack's words, "You're stronger than you think." For the first time, Rinya made a choice. She stood, shaking but determined, and stepped between Jack and the hunters. They froze, surprised to see only a thin alien girl in their path. One hunter laughed. "Move aside, little one. We want the human." But Rinya didn't move. Something deep inside her woke up a memory, a feeling, a bright spark, she thought. She had lost. The ground beneath her feet seemed to hum. "No," Rinya whispered. "You will not hurt him." The hunters sneered, thinking she was helpless. But suddenly, a wind rushed through the camp. The purple plants around Rinya's feet twisted and grew, curling up the hunter's legs and pulling them to the ground. Stones lifted and rolled at her command. The fire burned brighter, casting strange shadows across the bridge. The hunters shouted, trying to break free, but the vines held them tight. Rinya raised her hands. She felt energy swirling in her chest, running through her arms. The night filled with glowing light. One hunter screamed, "She's one of them, a mind shaper." But Rinya's voice was strong. "Leave, now." The plants loosened their grip, and the hunters crawled away, stumbling into the dark. Rinya stood trembling, amazed at what she had done. She looked down at Jack, who had watched everything with wide, feverish eyes. Rinya dropped to her knees beside him, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was always afraid, but I won't hide anymore." Jack reached up and squeezed her hand, weak but smiling. "You did it, Rinya. You protected us both." The next morning, Jack's fever finally broke. He was still weak, but Rinya cared for him, gathering wild berries and clean water. She felt proud for the first time in her life, not because she had powers, but because she had chosen to use them to save someone who mattered. As Jack recovered, he taught Rinya more about hope, kindness, and trust. She told him stories from her old home memories she had never shared with anyone. In return, Jack told her about Earth, about how every person had something special inside, even if no one else could see it. But danger was not gone. Far away, word of Rinya's powers was spreading. Hunters, slavers, and powerful leaders began to whisper her name. Some wanted her as a weapon, others as a prize. Rinya and Jack knew their journey was not over. But as they left the ruined bridge behind, Rinya walked taller. She was no longer the frightened girl in a cage. She was someone with power, and now, someone with purpose. In the distance, thunder rumbled, promising new challenges. But for the first time, Rinya looked at the future without fear. Worth more than gold. As dawn broke, golden light spilled over the hills, making the strange world look softer. Rinya and Jack followed a narrow path along the river until the land changed. The forest ended, and low, misty fields appeared. In the distance, Rinya saw something she'd never seen before. Cluster of round houses, shining with blue lights, built partly under the ground. Jack smiled when he saw the place. "This is a human outpost," he said, voice full of memories. "People here know what it's like to start over." Rinya squeezed his hand, a little afraid but also curious. As they approached, the outpost's gate slid open with a quiet hiss. A tall woman in a patched uniform stepped out, flanked by two guards. She studied Jack and Rinya, her face stern but not unkind. "Jack," she said, surprised. "You're back and in bad shape." Jack nodded. "We need help, Sarah. She's with me." Sarah looked at Rinya, seeing not a slave but a child, tired, hungry, and brave. She nodded, signaling the guards to let them in. "You're safe here," she promised. Inside the outpost, everything was different from the slave markets. No one stared at Rinya with hate or suspicion. Children ran past, laughing. A group of humans and aliens shared food in the common hall. Jack and Rinya were given a warm room and clean clothes. For the first time, Rinya slept on a real bed. The next day, Jack introduced Rinya to others. He shared her story, but not her secret power, only that she had been through much and needed kindness. The people listened and nodded, some with sad smiles, some with gentle curiosity. Sarah, the leader, brought Rinya a basket of fresh fruit. "Everyone here lost something before they found this place," she said. "You're welcome among us." For days, Rinya helped in the gardens, learning how to plant vegetables and mend simple tools. The other children taught her games, and even though she was shy, she began to laugh again. The old fear was still there, but softer now, like a shadow at sunset. One quiet evening, as Jack watched the stars, Rinya joined him. She held a simple necklace, a gift from a kind old woman in the outpost. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Quietly, Jack's eyes grew distant. "Long ago, I was trapped too. Not as a slave, but as a prisoner on a world that hated humans. I was saved by someone who saw me as a person, not a problem. That's why I promised myself I'd help anyone who needed a second chance." You reminded me what hope feels like. Rinya listened closely. For so long, she'd believed her life meant nothing. Now Jack's story made her wonder, maybe she was more than the past others forced on her. But safety never lasted long. Word of the girl with hidden powers had traveled, carried by greedy tongues. One night as Rinya watered the garden, a stranger slipped through the fence, a bounty hunter with cold eyes and a cruel smile. He grabbed Rinya, whispering threats, a knife at her side. "You're worth more than gold to the right people," he sneered. "Come quietly and no one gets hurt." Rinya froze. Old fear rushed back, but then she remembered the fire, the bridge, the courage Jack believed in. As the bounty hunter tightened his grip, Rinya closed her eyes and let herself feel the strange energy within. The earth trembled beneath her feet. The garden's roots snaked up, wrapping the man's legs and arms. He gasped, struggling, but Rinya stood tall now. "You cannot take me," she said, voice steady. "I am not property." The commotion drew the outpost's guards. Jack arrived, running to her side, his face full of worry and pride. Sarah and the others helped subdue the bounty hunter. For the first time, Rinya felt strong in front of a crowd. The outpost saw what she could do, but instead of fear, they offered understanding. "You're not a weapon or a curse," Sarah told her. "You're family, if you want to be." Rinya smiled, tears shining in her eyes. Jack squeezed her shoulder. "You're worth more than gold, Rinya. You always were." But the danger was not gone. The bounty hunter had friends and more would come. Jack and Rinya prepared for the coming storm, knowing this time they wouldn't face it alone. As the stars brightened over the outpost, Rinya looked up with hope, no longer just a survivor, but a girl with a future. The price of freedom. The sky over the outpost glowed with the colors of early dawn, but today there was no peace. The news had come fast. A group of slavers and bounty hunters were marching toward the human outpost, led by the cruel men who once called Rinya worthless. They brought weapons and anger and a promise to take her back, no matter the cost. Inside the outpost, everyone moved with purpose. Some packed supplies, ready to run. Others built barricades or sharpened tools. Jack met with Sarah and the other leaders, planning how to defend their new home. Rinya watched quietly, heart pounding. She knew the danger was because of her. She knew she could hide, but this time she didn't want to die. As the sun rose, Rinya joined Jack outside the main hall. "I want to stay and fight," she said, her voice trembling but clear. Jack placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Only if you're sure," he said softly. "No one here will force you." Rinya nodded. "You saved me. You showed me I could be more. I won't let them hurt my family." For the first time, she called these people her family. Jack's eyes shone with pride. Soon, the sound of boots and rough voices echoed through the fields. The slavers appeared, faces twisted with greed and hatred. "Give us the girl," they shouted. "She's ours. She's property. You have no right." Sarah stepped forward, standing between the outpost and the enemy. "She is not property," Sarah declared. "She is one of us. You will not take her." The slavers laughed, raising their weapons. "Then you'll all pay." The battle began. Quickly, the outpost defenders, humans and aliens, old and young, stood side by side. Jack fought with courage, using all the tricks he'd learned from a life of surviving. Sarah led from the front, never backing down. Rinya stood behind the barricade, fear battling inside her with a new feeling, determination. She remembered Jack's words, the kindness of the people here, and the moment she first realized she was more than a slave. As the attackers climbed the fence, Rinya stepped forward, hands shaking but eyes clear. She whispered to the earth, calling on the power she once feared. Roots burst from the ground, tangling the feet of the slavers. Stones rolled beneath their boots, sending them sprawling. The wind howled, blinding them with dust. Some tried to shoot, but Rinya raised her hand, and the weapons jerked away as if pulled by invisible strings. Jack, fighting nearby, saw her and shouted encouragement. "That's it, Rinya. Don't stop." One of the slavers broke through, rushing toward Rinya with a blade. She froze for a moment, fear returning, then remembered everything Jack had taught her. With all her will, she forced the blade from his hand and pushed him back with a wave of energy. The slaver fell stunned. Defenders, inspired by Rinya's courage, pushed harder. The slavers, surprised and frightened, began to fall back. Some shouted that the girl was a witch, a demon, but others saw something different. A girl who only wanted to be free. Finally, as the sun rose high, the last of the attackers ran from the outpost, defeated by people they thought were weak, breathless. Rinya looked at her hands still trembling, but now with pride, not fear. She had chosen to stand and fight, not just for herself, but for everyone who ever felt alone or powerless. The people of the outpost cheered. Sarah hugged Rinya tightly. Jack came and knelt beside her. "You did it," he whispered. "You're free, truly free." Rinya felt tears on her cheeks. For the first time, she was not afraid of them. She looked at the faces around her, some human, some alien, all smiling and grateful. Later that evening, the outpost held a celebration under the stars. Food and music filled the air. Children danced and old wounds felt a little lighter. Rinya sat beside Jack, eating sweet fruit, her heart finally at rest. Jack squeezed her hand. "You were never worthless, Rinya. You just needed someone to believe in you. Now you can believe in yourself too." As night fell, Rinya looked up at the endless sky and knew her story was just beginning. She was no longer a slave, no longer worthless. She was Rinya, strong, free, and finally home.